Hello everyone and welcome to Magic Gathering Strat. I'm Binkabi and this will be Let's Talk About It number 3. We're gonna dive into the pre-releases. We're gonna stroll down some of my pre-release memories and try to learn from the experiences that I've had and, well, try not to repeat the mistakes and so forth. Behind me on the wall I have framed all the pre-release promo cards that I've acquired during my own pre-releases, so there is a total of 11 frames behind me, and I've been pretty successful at pre-releases. I've won 6 times out of 11, so more than 50% of the time I end up in the top, and I've never been lower than the top 8, so pretty good record there. So how do you succeed? What should you think about? What could you do? Well, we're gonna end this discussion today by some notes on what I want you to do, the watcher and the listeners. So let's go down my memory lane, and we're gonna visit some of the pre-releases I went to and try to learn from them. So the first one that we're gonna revisit is Dragon's Maze with the word prepare. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Swedish, but you don't really need it. It's the date, the year, and the place. So I ended up at first place at that tournament. I think it was like 6 rounds plus the top 8 draft, so it was quite a stretch, but anyway, prepare. That's the most important thing probably out of all. If you come down to a pre-release with the expectation of doing well and maybe winning some boosters and stuff like that, you need to prepare. If you come over and you just think that I'm gonna play it out and read the cards while we're going, that won't work out. For the Dragon's Maze pre-release, I went a bit further than usual. I usually just read the cards when they're spoiled, and then I do a search on just the commons in each color and try to make some kind of opinion: which color do I like, which one seems weak, and so forth. Then, like in a set as Dragon's Maze is, you need to evaluate guilds or maybe clans or what it could be, but I try to make an opinion, try to evaluate everything and see if a color is better or worse or whatever. But for this one I also printed out some number of cards. I think it was like 3,000 cards, and proxed the whole set and built seal pools and played against my wife. And my wife is not the best Magic player in the world, but it gives you a decent opinion on things. I mean, if she finds a combo that just crushes me, then I know that it works, and so forth. So be prepared, do your research. What combat tricks are in the set? How good is the removal? Does the set look fast? Or, for example, is blue an aggressive color? Is blue a more control-ish color? It could be either way. If you come to a pre-release prepared, knowing the stuff, knowing the cards, knowing the new rules for mechanics and stuff, you have a very big edge and a good chance at winning. Let's move on to M15. Yeah, I know. Another first place for me. I have not only taken the first place pictures, I don't think, at least, maybe, but we tend to remember the good times more than the bad times. So, but I've already touched this a bit in the previous slide, but evaluate the color skills and so forth. For M15 I did a very serious rundown of all the cards, since we were going to play with the promos and we're gonna have seeded boosters, I think it was, and stuff like that. Even rares are something to take into consideration. So by looking at all the numbers in all the colors for commons, uncommons and rares, red was by far the best color. It was not even close. Some colors had like a good common, like triplicate spirits in white, but it didn't really matter because red was so superior in my mind. So that's why I chose red for this pre-release. And I'm not saying you should always pick the best color or what you think is the best color, but in my mind the best color was red because it could handle what the other colors did except for the token strategy. So therefore I was kind of sure that I wanted to pair it with black that could handle that. So I played a red-black controller deck with a lot of removal and Fester Glooms, and that just I had all the tools to win, and I even beat like a double triplicate spirits together with an Ajani. And if you can do that, you have made a pretty good call of what to play and how to build a deck. So yeah, but let's take the counterpart right away. We will journey to Theros, and probably the best pre-release I've ever been to. I was just so happy the whole time. But play something you like. If you don't like playing red, you should not play red. If you don't find blue and counter spells and bounce appealing, choose a different color, even if you think that's the best one. For Theros, all I had to do was look at the promo card, and I was sold. Shipbreaker Kraken is the best card ever. I was so happy. I got to monsters it twice, and that was like my goal. I didn't care if I lost every single round. All I wanted to do was monsters this thing once, and I just so happened to do that. So I was very pleased. But playing something you like, not only is it good because you kind of have a good understanding of the color or concept already, you know what they want to be doing, but you also have a lot of experience that is actually valuable. I mean, in many situations it's like, should I attack or not? And if you're familiar with the color or the concept and you know what you want to be doing, that's a lot easier to understand. Maybe you want to race, maybe you should stay back or something, but if you're playing something you're familiar with, it's much easier to make those calls. We have 2 more pictures to go to. We're gonna go to the Concept Tarkir's pre-release, and this is actually a bit different because this was a 2-headed giant thing, and that's the only pre-release that I've been to that was actually 2-headed giant. The other 10 is single. But I think this was a pretty good one to use for the topic I wanted to talk about, and that's being disciplined during deck building is crucial to win or do well at the pre-release. I see so many players coming down and just add every sweet card they can find into a deck, throw in a bunch of lands, and then we go from there. And that rarely works out. And this is probably the hardest thing to do. I mean, everyone can put in the time to prepare and run numbers and see which color should be picked because it's stronger or whatever. But being disciplined during deck building is so hard. For example, this time around, I was playing Temur, and not because I like Temur or anything, because that was like the only box left to choose from, and my partner took Mardu, I think. Yeah, I think it was no Sultai. He took Sultai, so we ended up with no deck, actually wanting white. That's good right there, but building on the deck's strength and using the cards based on that is so crucial. I played my Temur Ascendancy, for example, and that made me shy away from cheaper creatures, or rather smaller creatures, and wanting to have bigger creatures, because that triggers the Ascendancy, it's good. And so my partner had to fill his deck with smaller stuff and more interactive things, because if my first relevant plays on turn 4, we might be overrun, so he had to shore up the early game. And that's one way to build decks, but here it's like two decks that combines as one, but you have to do the same. If you're playing a few big things, you can't add three more big things into that deck. You have to play that 2/2 for 2 with no upside, because otherwise you die on turn 5 before you can play your stuff. So making sure your deck has a great curve, a good mix of spells and creatures, and the right amount of lands is very important. And also splashing. There is actually nothing that is called. I know people say use the term free splash, but it's not actually true. But sometimes it's so easy on your mana base to splash that it's worth it. But let's say you're playing a green-white aggressive deck with a lot of creatures and a low curve, and then you get something like what should we take? Let's say a good planeswalker that costs like 8 mana but just one red, like 7 and a red. There is no such planeswalker, but let's just pretend it is. And it's so sweet, this card, and you really want to play it, and you have like one Evolving Wild, so sure, you jam 2 mountains into your deck and this card, and you're most likely gonna lose more games than you're winning on the back of that card. So even splashing powerful cards could be wrong if it upsets the deck that you already have. Sometimes you have to do that because your deck is too bad, but that's another story. But being disciplined during deck building is crucial. It was actually all first place pictures. That's pretty fun, but they summed up what I wanted to say pretty well. The last thing is, of course, having fun and learn from your experiences. I can still to this day recall gameplay errors and deck building errors and sweet plays from tournaments 3 or 4 years ago, and that's something you should do too. You don't have to remember them so long, but you should have a pretty good understanding of, if I do this and it turns out to be wrong, you have to learn from that and do something else next time. I see a lot of players doing what I talked about in the last Let's Talk About video, and that was they're always blaming things on luck or that you couldn't do anything about the situation, and there's always something you can do differently. There's almost that, at least. So, but having fun, picking the color you like or the guild you like and doing the stuff you like is very important at a pre-release to succeed. And learning from basically everything, mistakes and good plays, is very important. Here we are at Return to Ravnica pre-release, and I chose Celestia because I kinda like tokens, and I think it was a pretty sweet thing to get to play with a land as your promo card. I mean, using a land as a spell is just so good, and it was a pretty good spell on top of that, so that was sweet. But I also learned that, because not because I did a mistake or anything, but I saw a friend of mine playing a guild, and he complained basically the whole time because he didn't like what he was playing. He couldn't see the good things and the strengths of his deck because he was playing something he didn't like because he thought it was the best. So hopefully he learned from that and next time picks something else. I don't remember what he picked after that, but hopefully something he enjoyed playing. So, listen to others is the last thing I want to add. What I have to say might help any one of you, and what you have to say might help me be better at Magic and pre-releases. So, what do you have to add to this list? Do you have any tips or anything like that that we should discuss in the comment section? Please add them there. And I also want you to just share some cool stories, some nice plays, or oh, you picked that color and you couldn't play it, so you played this, or whatever. Something that you think others would enjoy reading. It don't have to be a whole novel. It's just a few words will be just fine. And lastly, just tell us about your best memories. There is from time to time like competitions, like write your best memory and win a booster or something. This won't be anything like that, but please just share your memories. That helps a lot more than you might think, actually. Yeah, that's basically it. Just leave a comment and let's discuss it further there. And as soon as Magic Origins is out on Magic Online, we will be doing some sweet Magic Origins standard, modern drafts, and all of that. So stay tuned for the next videos.